Hi, my name is Jacqueline Cosgrove. I'm the health reporter at the Oklahoman, and today I am joined by Dr. R. Mural Krishna, who is a psychiatrist in Oklahoma City and works at Integris. Thank you so much for joining us
You're
today.
welcome. It's my pleasure.
And today we're talking about, especially with the holidays, people are going to be traveling a lot. And, one of the things that they might experience is some anxiety related to, being in different public places and thinking about the recent terrorist attacks in Paris and Lebanon and in several other cities. Those are making headlines. I was just wanting to ask you, when people start feeling that anxiety, what are some things that they can do to kind of help ease those fears?
Okay. I think most importantly, recognize that this is a normal feeling in facing an abnormal situation. The terrorism attacks don't happen every day in every part of the world. They happen in some selected places occasionally. And the last few weeks we've had some rash of bad news about terrorist attack from the Middle East, and that is causing a lot of anxiety in many human beings. When one is anxious, they are actually feeling somewhat threatened or feeling a sense of fear of something like that might happen to them or their loved ones. And so the body picks up the stress signals and reacts with stress reaction. So the body's reaction is a very normal reaction to an abnormal situation. So recognize them. For example, the tension, the anxiety, the sleeplessness, the sense of restlessness, the sense of powerlessness, the sense of helplessness. These are normal feelings that one experiences due to terrorism or an act of sudden death that happened en masse there in Paris. Unfortunate, very tragic incidents. How one deals with that depends on what state they're in. Right in the beginning, the most important thing to remember is to be with each other. This is a public event that happened. This is not something individually happening to you. So share your thoughts and share your feelings and share your anxieties and share your fears with each other openly. It does two things. One is it connects with each other at a very deep emotional level, because we're all traveling the same journey in this life. And when these things happen, they threaten all of us. That's what they're intended for by the people that perpetrate that. And so you share with each other the journey, you connect with each other, and you talk about it, you ventilate, and you try to find healthy options.
With social media, we see such a mix of compassion, with some people feeling very sympathetic and in some cases empathetic to people, and then there's some people who just feel so angry and probably find it hard to address that anger because there's no one you can really, say you're angry to, so you just post it online.
You're right. It's social media is doing something wonderful that you're able to share with each other en masse for a larger number of people, and that's a wonderful way of doing that. But it's also good to do personally, in person, connecting with people in person and sharing that and traveling with them in that process. Help the family, help the children, help the elderly to deal with their feelings and fears, and that's very important. Another important aspect is when anything is happening anywhere in the world, with the way our internet and media are today, we are all living through these successes and failures and tragedies and triumphs together. And so there is a lot more connectedness from a universal perspective. We are all traveling the same boat together. And so with Paris, we empathize with them. We feel for them. When we had the terrorist attack in Oklahoma City back in 1995, April 19th, I was there in Oklahoma City Chief of Staff at St. Anthony Hospital at that time, and I helped coordinate some of the relief efforts at that time. And along with our suffering, our confusion, our anxiety, and our fear, most of the world felt it. They sent us messages. They were about to send us plane load of doctors from London, England, and from Los Angeles, from other parts of the world, plane load of nurses and doctors and help and so on and so forth. Oklahomans, fortunately at that time, stood by with each other. From every walk of life, they came up and said, they rolled up the sleeves and said, we want to help. Not only doctors and nurses and pharmacists and firemen and policemen, but pizza makers and shoe polishers and janitors and everybody showed up. It's such a touching moment to see the beauty of humanity coming out in such a wonderfully concentrated, supportive way, and that helped us heal. It took several months for us to really get a really good grip on what's going on and how to cope with our own emotions and thoughts and feelings and so on and so forth. but to be with each other, to share with each other, to travel with each other, to talk about it, to look at options and to take the precautions and to discuss that more in depth and to put more emphasis on prevention by asking our governmental officials, our the security people here we have. When you walk into the stadium, everybody needs to take more precautions to make sure that we're protecting the public the very best we can with modern technology. Sometimes we take things for granted because nothing has ever happened in any of our football games or any of our concerts and things like that. Rarely anything happens in the United States. It's one of the safest countries on earth.
Right.
Because of the ocean and because of our high technology and you have to cross the ocean to come here. However, when you have so much of travel happening internationally, we cannot be naive and pretend that it may not happen here. We need to take all the precautions we can.
You know, obviously, Oklahoma City is very familiar with tragedy, with the Oklahoma City bombing, and just so many people in our city and in our state, and even in this region, were affected by the bombing. How are events like what we saw in Paris triggering sometimes for people? How can that be triggering in terms of what they experienced, even though it was 20 years ago?
You're right.
What can that bring up some anxiety and some feelings that might be unanticipated?
Absolutely. Some people are more vulnerable to that genetically, biologically. In fact, Duke University studies are showing clearly that after one major trauma, long-term physiological, biochemical changes happen in the brain that you can see 40 years later.
Wow.
Nobody has even touched you. It's an emotional trauma that happened several decades ago. That physiological residue of that can remain within your brain for up to 40 years that we know of today. Could be longer probably. And so in some people who are more vulnerable, there are certain populations that will become more vulnerable, whoever is alone, do not have enough support system, sometimes elderly, people who have been traumatized before, and people that do not have a firm way of taking care of themselves. Certain personalities are more prone than others. They are more vulnerable for reawakening of the trauma. It's like post-traumatic stress disorder. It could be reawakened by events mimicking the past events. There's nothing really too common about these two events. This is domestic terrorism, and that's international terrorism that's happening over there. Bombs are common in both places, but the metropolitan area is different, the number of people are different, but still it's a trauma. A trauma is a trauma. Trauma is a violation of your inner peace through some mechanism or other. Somebody is violating your inner peace, your inner place, your sense of security, your semblance of normalcy in life, and your sense of security about the future. When that is affected, the brain and the body make changes, and some of them could be having reactivation of the symptoms.
Wow. Well, Dr. Krishna, thank you so much for coming down to the studio. Is there anything else you'd like to add that I haven't asked you?
I think knowing from Oklahoma City, these acts of terrorism, if people act properly in terms of healing each other and connecting with each other and doing things they need to do, they can do for each other, the society in general will become more stronger, more resilient, and will come out of this a lot more stronger than what we were to begin with. We may have to take more precautions. We may have to take more secure measures, especially in the public meetings and gatherings. But the thing that we need to do is do not let that push you back. Live the life that you have chosen to live, and your ancestors have chosen to live. They fought hard to get where we are today, and we show our patriotism and our commitment to this democracy and this open society by being out there, by being with people, by supporting the events and by supporting activities and by helping each other heal. So Oklahoma City is a great example. We became a better society. We are more connected. It's such a wonderful, healing, friendly, warm, empathic environment. Anybody could live in Oklahoma. In fact, I say that this is the best city in the world in terms of compassion and love. And when you look at terrorism in any other parts of the world that has happened, including World Trade Number 1, World Trade Number 2, the Madrid, Spain bombing, the London bombing, the Mumbai, India bombing, and the African bombing. From the bombing site, people are running away from the bombing site as fast as they could. Only OKC, people are running towards the bombing site to help. Police had to cordon them off. we showed our resolve that we want to stand by our people and we won't let them hurt. We want to give our helping hand, our words of support, material support, resource support, our love. That's what exactly happened here. It made us a better society. You know, of course, the MAPS project and all the other things have evolved, and how well connected we are as a society is what's making modern Oklahoma City. So that's what's going to happen in the world. This is going to make us have more resolve and more strength in going forward.
Well, thank you, Dr. Krishna, for joining us so much. We really appreciate your time.
Thank you. Thank you, Jacqueline.
Thank you.